has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, Hoerner. Taco waits one. Deep left field. Down the line. That ball is out of here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tablesetters, covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve, joined with my beleaguered tag team partner, Devin. What's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us. Glad to have you. Steve, I'm going to open up with this. This is just an announcement to everybody tuning in. I don't want to talk about the Mets tonight. Everyone that listens to the show, and if you're a first-time listener, yes, I'm a hardcore Mets fan, diehard. They don't deserve the time, quite frankly. We opened with them last week. They still have not won a game since then. Like, we're literally a week between episodes, and same story, even worse. Yes, Juan Soto came back tonight. Yes, Christian Scott is joining the rotation tomorrow. Pretty cool to see him back. But Francisco Lindor gets hurt with a calf tonight, just like Soto came back from. That's been the story for the New York Mets. Listen, 2 years ago, Carlos Mendoza was called a future managerial star by multiple baseball writers. Then David Stearns comes along, was touted as a boy genius. To me, it's pretty clear he's a snake oil salesman, a fraud. Honestly, wake me up when they actually do something on the field or they fire somebody, and then we can add them to the show rundown again. But we spent 20 minutes on them at least last week at the top of the show, and nothing's really changed. It's only gotten worse. So go listen to that one if you want to hear our thoughts on the Mets and their struggles. Listen, if they come up during a different conversation tonight, which I'm sure they will at some point, fine. But they don't deserve to be in the show rundown, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I do not blame you. As a passionate Mets fan, I can feel the anger coming off you, and it feels like this game, as we're sitting here at 9:34 Eastern, feels like it is in losing distance, and maybe they can pull off a magical win in a very empty Citi Field. And yes, it's freezing cold here in New York, but the fans are showing by not showing up, and that was a huge talking point with Steve Cohen going forward. They made some news today with the Juan Soto business, where obviously he's on the IL. So what does that mean? He doesn't talk to his teammates for the whole time that he's gone. So do you want to give your thoughts on that? Is that more indicative of the relationship or lack thereof with the teammates and Juan Soto, or is this just chemistry, or maybe the apple's rotten to the core?
I feel like I have to stay true to my word and keep my lips sealed. I said
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about him unless they come up in other conversations. So you feel free for you to give your thoughts. I mean, he was on your team before he was on mine, so I'm sure you have opinions on that. But I can't say I'm not going to talk about him and then just start fucking going off about him. So I'm
a
pleading the
huge
fifth.
Soto supporter. You guys know I love Juan Soto, one of my favorite players in the league. He's a certified Hall of Fame player in the future of baseball. So we'll leave it at that. The Mets right now, they need a vibe check. They try to do it with Danhausen. I saw that Craig Carton brought on the Hawk-Tua girl. Anyone's trying to figure this out. It might be the Mamdani curse, as they're saying in New York City, but something has to change. I'm just saying that this is what the papers are reporting. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it. That's actually going on in the newspapers. But again, we want to welcome new listeners here, because Devin's been working hard on the X Machine at Tablesetters Pod, putting in a lot of work with the notables and some matchups and some probables. So we have a whole bunch of new followers over there. So thank you. We made it over 4,000 followers. So if you're new here, thank you so much for supporting the show. And Devin, speak to those videos you're making. It seems like they're taking off a little bit more every day.
Yeah, no, honestly, like when I started these, I said this last week, like I really started doing more of this in the postseason last year, like looking at matchups and stuff like that. And I'm not going to sit here and say we're the only ones that do this. I mean, I think everyone does it in a different style. But it's been fun going through it every day. And I don't know if I would have done it every day if it didn't get such a great reaction. The follower count has exploded the last couple of weeks or few weeks. And, people chiming in as well with their thoughts. And I said to you, listen, I don't consider this betting advice by any means, but I know we have a lot of people from the betting community that are passionate about that have kind of started following us because of that. Listen, if the information is helpful and helps you make some decisions, great. I just want to let you know, I'm not saying look at that sheet that I put out and bet on all that stuff, because clearly that's not going to work. And I think everybody hopefully knows that. But I'm glad to get that out there every single day. Some days have more information than others. Every once in a while, you get a light day with not a lot of historical matchups, a lot of fresh matchups. But I've added that recently too at the bottom where we put the fresh matchups where it's a pitcher that has not faced anybody on the team he's facing that day. So and who knows, maybe we'll add to it and change some things and mix it around a little bit as we go if any ideas pop into our heads. But like I said, happy to do it, and love seeing the follower count grow.
Yeah, and then definitely I saw some comments on the bottom of it, not saying we're supporting you guys using that information for betting, but some people saying that it helped hit some parlays. So make sure you guys check that out at Tablesetters Pod, because that information is accurate and good. We already talked about the Mets a little bit here, bottom 3 to 5 offense and baseball production, power, run creation. Let's talk about their NL East counterparts in our opening say here. I know you put them on the run sheet talking about the Phillies. They might be in a little bit of a different situation. They're losing again tonight to Chicago Cubs. They're in a situation right now where the NL East is falling quick from them. I understand it's still April. We're approaching May next week. But they do have a hero with the cape on the way back this weekend. And I'm wondering, and we'll have this conversation, do you believe it is enough with Zach Wheeler in tow to turn everything around in Philadelphia?
Yeah, well, I guess that's part of this conversation, a pretty big part. So yeah, we'll start with that, and then we can kind of go into their, what is actually ailing them right now when you peek behind the curtain. I don't know. So to answer your question, I think the quick answer is no. I don't think Zach Wheeler is enough on his own to turn this around. They're going to need other things to go right as well. I think it's a welcome return for sure. And we'll see. I think the jury is out. It's going to take a few starts of Zach Wheeler to know, like, is this the guy we've all seen now for many years, or is he a slightly diminished version of himself in the beginning? Sometimes when you come back from these big injuries, it takes a little while to get it back. So we'll see. The thing is, as much as I love Zach Wheeler, he's been one of the most consistent pitchers in Major League Baseball for many years now. You know what you're going to get from him. Even if he is that dude, when you take a look under the hood, there's a lot to go through. Alarmingly similar to the Mets. Like, seriously, alarmingly similar to the Mets. I think the Mets, maybe it's just because we live in New York, but it feels like they're getting more coverage, and it's also the crazy losing streak. But I believe the Phillies are only one game better. So as far as a whole, I mean, if the Mets win tonight and the Phillies lose, they're basically tied at the bottom of Major League Baseball. But to me, I said this going in. I'll pat myself on the back a little here. I mean, listen, I was wrong about a lot of things too. I picked the Mets to win the division. But I did say there was something about the vibes in Philly that I did not like. Something felt off. And right now, I still think we can use the word early, but it feels like they brought the band back together one too many times. And everyone thought, like, when they were eliminated last year with the Orion Kerkering, terrible ending to the Dodgers, everyone thought like that was it. That was the last chapter of that specific Philly book, and it was going to look pretty different, with a few of the same faces. But to be honest, it mostly looks the same. A couple exits, a young guy or two added to the mix as well. But one criticism of Dave Dombrowski over the years, I mean, people love him for his aggressiveness. He goes out and does things, right? He doesn't really sit still and sit quietly, but sometimes the contracts that he gives out age poorly. And all of a sudden you look at like the guys that are left on the ledger for years to come and their ages, and you're like, and how much they're being paid. And it's a little worrisome. He's done this other places as well. If you look down the list of things, I mean, this is a lot, but we can go through it. 5th worst in offensive F WAR, 0.8 total. 5th worst team WRC plus, 85, right? League average 100. 6th worst slugging percentage. 3rd worst on base percentage. Only the Giants and the Mets are worse. 2nd worst team batting average, hitting 218 as a team going into tonight. Only Cincinnati's worse, which is like, we're going to talk about Cincinnati later and like if we think they're real or not, because obviously the win total is nice. Interesting to see that they are actually the worst in batting average. We'll bring that up later too. Much like the Mets, for the Phillies, strikeouts aren't really the problem. I feel like usually you look at teams that struggle offensively and you see like super high K percentages. I don't really think that is the main ailment of the Mets or the Phillies if you look at the numbers. 6th worst team walk percentage. So like just getting on base overall is a hard, it's been a hard time for them. With runners on base, WRC plus of 94, again, below average. With runners on base, team average of 216. That's the 3rd worst. Only Cincinnati and the White Sox are worse than that. Worst WRC plus by 4 to 7 hitters. This one, it was tweeted out today, and I feel like this is important. They're 4 to 7 hitters. Their triple slash line, 193, 253, 280. So like you're looking at that middle of the order there, 4 to 7. It's not going well, to put it lightly. And if we really want to get into the weeds here, you go on Baseball Savant and you poke around a little bit. The pull air percentage, that is a very hot term over the last couple of years when people are looking at offensive numbers. Everyone wants to see high pull air percentages for players. As a team, they're putting up a 13.8% pull air percentage, which is 28th in the league. And here's why that might matter. Baseball Savant has this little note when you look at these type of stats. It says pulled air balls were responsible for 66% of all home runs from the years 2022 to 2024. They produced a 547 average and a 733 WOBA, showing their high value. So that, if you're wondering, like, who care? Why should we care about pull air percentage? Well, that's why. Baseball Savant kind of writes it out for you right there. Alec Boehm has been terrible. Adolis Garcia has been the guy we saw in Texas last year. Schwarber has been himself, but the average is down. Last year was kind of like 240-ish, 50-something bombs. I think he can hit 50 bombs again, but the average might be ticking back down a little bit. Bryson Stott's been bad. On the pitching side, you always feel like the pitching is going to carry them and just be good enough offensively. Other than Christopher Sanchez, the rotation hasn't been good. Andrew Painter, 4.42 ERA. And honestly, as a rookie, I'll take that. But I mean, still not the greatest. Luzardo, 6.91, which I believe is the second worst among qualified pitchers. Crochet is the worst, which is also crazy. Aaron Nola, 5.06. Taijuan Walker, 9.16. And I think, he's the bulk guy tonight. They had an opener for him, hoping that would work. I don't think it changed the story much for Taijuan Walker. So I don't know. You asked me the question about Wheeler. I want to hear your thoughts on Wheeler too. And like, if you think he really could be the savior. But I also want you to answer the question of like, do we think Rob Thompson's job is in the line, who was just extended last year? Like, we talk about Carlos Mendoza so much for the Mets. Like, how has he not been fired yet? What about Rob Thompson?
Yeah, Dave Dombrowski came out. You mentioned he's doing a lot of media right now and said that unequivocally Rob Thompson's not on the hot seat. So we'll see if that hides true, because he made it clear the organization still believes in him, and they did reinforce that with the extension and keeping him there. But when, again, you look under the hood, you mentioned a lot of the numbers. They ranked 28th in MLB as an average as far as hitting 218. And during the losing streak, you mentioned the Mets losing streak, and they're about to lose their 8th straight tonight, sitting at 8-15. Unless they rally against the Cubs, they're going to lose this game. During the losing streak, not including tonight, they've been outscored 49-14. Kind of tells you how non-competitive these games have been. I understand the Mets have lost a lot of games, but games like tonight, they're up right now 3-2. They just took the lead in the 8th, but they're losing close games. The Phillies have been largely non-competitive. And the other difference is the lack of defense. Defensively, you mentioned the pitching being strong, but typically they're a strong defensive team. They're not doing that this year. So you look at the team ERA, you mentioned the pitching, near the bottom of the league, defensive metrics, -16 defensive runs saved. That's not a Phillies team that is competitive that we've seen in the past. And even when the offense does something, it hasn't been consistently supported. So robbing Peter to pay Paul on both sides of the ball. And the other thing I pulled out historically, looking at a Phillies team that, let's be honest, there was a time where the Phillies had a downturn as far as being competitive. But for the most part, in the last 2 decades, the Phillies have been competitive every single year. This is their worst start through the first 21 to 23 games in years. And while the season's kind of still early, you look at this 40-game mark, Dave Dombrowski used it in the media as this general checkpoint. Maybe that was indicative of him believing that's when it's not early. 40 games, I'm not sure I sit here and agree with it. This team is not lacking talent. It's just really right now a team that isn't hitting. It's not pitching. It's not defending well. And they're not coming up big in key moments. Not that there's many key moments, because they're going down big in big spots. The losses are piling up. And I guess the other conversation we could have is the Braves are sitting 5 games up on the second place Marlins. We've talked about the Braves endlessly in the NL East preview. We have our doubts on the offense has been amazing. Drake Baldwin and the crew over there are crushing the ball. But I think this is open for them to climb back in. And I think there's 2 different, I understand they have similar issues. I'm not saying Wheeler is the savior, but it's almost like the Phillies have shown that they can climb out of a hole. But at some point, it becomes a vibes thing, and maybe you start turning on the ship. And I don't know if the morale gets too low to climb out of the hole. But with the Braves sitting at the top and the Marlins in second and the Nats in third, that at least gives me some hope that both teams can decide to climb out of the hole. Even though for the Mets, losers of 12 straight games, I know we said we wouldn't talk about them, but losers of 12 straight games, historically, you and I said off the air, no other team has made the postseason losing 12 straight games at any point of the season. Other people have pointed to the 2024 Dodgers that I believe lost 11 straight in September. That is a completely different optic. This is a completely different place to be. The Mets, if they pull this off tonight, maybe it starts in the right direction. But losers of 12 straight, that feels hard to overcome. And the only reason a lot of people aren't talking about Philly outside of the greater Philadelphia area is because the Mets have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, and that could turn a little bit tonight if the results stay where they are. And I'm not making any bets on the Mets finishing this one off because we've seen this act before very recently. But yeah, I think just to touch on the whole streak thing, I agree with you with the whole, the team, what did you say, the Dodgers losing 11 in a row in September. It's different when, that, don't get me wrong, that can screw you at the end for sure. I mean, we saw last year, the story for the Mets was they were amazing the first half or quarter of the season and then just couldn't kind of get it together the last quarter of the season. I just feel like, and I guess you could look at it two different ways for the Mets. If you lose 12 straight in April, you could be an optimist and say, you know what, I'd rather do this now because it gives us time to make up for it than later. The other way to look at it, it's hard not to see it this way, in my opinion, is like for the rest of the year, you feel like you're running uphill with like giant backpack on your back. Like just, people are ahead of you and you're trying to catch them, but you're running uphill. Like you don't have any more room for another, not a 12-game losing streak, but you don't have room for another 4-game losing streak, it's going to feel like. Right. So they have a lot of work to do. And as do the Phillies, whose record might end up being the same after tonight. I wonder where Bryce Harper's head will be at if, let's say, another month goes by and this kind of continues, this poor play, disappointing play from the Phillies, because he's at an interesting point in his career where I think everyone would say he still has a lot left. Might not, his peak is probably gone, as his president of baseball operations basically said in the offseason. But I think a lot of people would be thrilled to have Bryce Harper as a part of their team. And I know he's embraced Philly so much since going there, always is wearing like the Philly Fanatics. He has embraced that city, not just the team. But I do wonder if there's a part of him that thinks like, if I'm going to make a move and if I don't feel like we're headed in a great direction, not just for this year, but in the next few years, like, is this the time I ask to go elsewhere? I think that'd be super interesting if he kind of announced himself as like, I'd like to be somewhere else for the rest of my career. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen, but it's an intriguing scenario just as a baseball fan of like, where could he end up? Where would he go? And what would that trade look like? And like, to a degree, I feel like Philadelphia would at least have to consider it. Going back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation of like, if you look at, they've gotten themselves in a little bit of trouble with the ages combined with the salary and years they have left for some of these guys. Like if you could make the team younger and bring in some younger hope for a guy like Bryce Harper, I don't know. I think they'd at least to kick the tires on it. I know some fans would probably feel like they wanted to revolt, but I don't know. Again, I'm not pressing the panic button yet for the Phillies, but they're getting closer to that territory. And we'll talk about them more in a group kind of conversation when we look at one of the polls I put out earlier this week about some of the struggling and disappointing teams.
So I do want to correct myself. We like to get things right here on Tablesetters. The Dodgers did lose 11 straight, but it was back in 2017. And looking at that team, Devin, to lose 11 straight and still win 104 games, that's a crazy season. I mean, losing 11 straight at any clip. And I understand they didn't win the World Series that year, but they did make it to the World Series and they did want to win in the pennant, but it's the outlier, not the rule here. But let's get into our meat of the order and talk about the rest of the news around baseball. All right, so an unintentional transition here because this guy was on the 2017 Dodgers, Max Muncy. And we're going to be talking about Dalton Rushing a little bit and the little engine that is the Los Angeles Dodgers with some of these role players going out here and pulling the weight. And let's be honest, you brought these two guys up by name. And Dalton Rushing and Max Muncy right now are doing some of the most important work in the Dodgers lineup right now, even with all the star power around them. And speaking about Rushing and what he's been able to do, sitting at a 414, 452, his OPS is 1.659, 7 home runs in the first stretch of games. And he's forced his way into the middle of the Dodgers order, which is saying a lot. And he's hitting for real impact. He had that 2 home run game in Colorado, and the power is translating against big league pitching. Max Muncy, this is a veteran. This is different. But again, he's a guy that came out swinging 8 home runs himself. And just in that Rocky series alone, went 10 for 17 with 4 home runs. So when he gets going like that, obviously the lineup does flow. He's a guy that does hit home runs in big bunches. What stood out to me, and you look at the way Dave Roberts has been managing this lineup against in that Colorado series, I understand they're the Colorado Rockies. They were projected to be one of the last place teams, but they are scrappy this year. Same as the Minnesota Twins. Like these teams that are on the bottom of the standings, maybe at the end of the year, the Minnesota Twins, the Chicago White Sox, the Colorado Rockies, there's something in the water where these teams want to come out and play a little bit better ball, at least at the early part of the season. And Dave Roberts looked at the series against the Colorado Rockies and said, we got to adjust the lineup. You move Muncy up. And it wasn't this like huge overhaul to the lineup, but there is a little bit of the struggling of the stars. And when you say struggling, you look at Ohtani, he's not playing at the top of his capabilities, pitching well. He's not hitting at all cylinders right now. Feels like it's getting there, but the Muncy move paid off right away. And you look at that, as I mentioned, 10 for 17, 4 home runs in that series. And you still have Shohei at the top chasing, the on-base streak that is obviously historic as well. And you have the anchored bats, but it's interesting to talk about these 2 guys. You can add in the conversation with Andy Pages, Ha-Sung Kim, Miguel Rojas. These guys are names that you probably wouldn't say are going to be the most important to the Dodgers. But as time goes on, man, the way they've built this team, they are this juggernaut, as we all know, with the star power. But underneath it is the protection they have for when there's slumps and injuries. And we're seeing that with Shohei and Freddie and Teoscar Hernandez. These guys are in the middle of the lineup, but they haven't even gotten fully hot yet. And that's the scary part for the rest of the league.
Yeah. There's some staggering stats about these 2 dudes. And it's just interesting. I wanted to put this in there tonight because I feel like it's basically Shohei, Freddie Freeman, Mookie when he's out there. But to be honest, even like Shohei dominates the headlines for the Dodgers. Like I feel like I don't even hear about Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and those guys that often. And there's so many other dudes there. Kyle Tucker, I basically forget that he's there. To be honest, I basically have forgotten that Kyle Tucker exists in baseball right now. That's how I feel so far. Not to mention Teoscar Hernandez. You can go up and down the list. We're not even talking about their pitchers. But some of these numbers here are eye-catching. I want to talk about Muncy first. So he started wearing glasses last year on May 2nd. So we're almost at the 1-year mark since he put these glasses on. I had some sight issues. We've seen this with some other guys before, and maybe they get contacts or they get LASIK and all of a sudden, like, different player. Listen to this. He's been a top 5 hitter in the game. If you look at WRC plus since that day, he started wearing glasses, May 2nd, 2025. This is the list of WRC plus numbers since that day till now. Judge leads at 187, Nick Kurtz at 170, Shohei Ohtani at 170, Max Muncy at 163, and then Juan Soto at 161. You want to look at OPS instead? He's also in the top 5 since May 2nd last year. So, like, it's pretty staggering. Like, top 5 hitter in the game since he's made that change, which is obviously a significant change. Like, you can make a direct correlation to that moment. He's hit 3 multi-home run games this year already. Like you alluded to a couple of them. So I think that's pretty legit. And then Dalton Rushing, what stands out with his performance is that he's done this in so few plate appearances, 31 plate appearances, but 7 home runs, which is second on the team, only below Muncy. So in only 31 plate appearances, he's above guys like Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani. Highest OPS and WRC plus on the Dodgers. Among catchers in Major League Baseball, he's only behind Ben Rice and Shea Langoliers in home runs. And each of those two have double the amount of plate appearances that Rushing does. And honestly, Langoliers has like triple the amount of plate appearances than Dalton Rushing does. So I saw someone on Twitter like make a post of like, Dodgers, can you please trade Dalton Rushing to a team where you can actually play every single day. And obviously they wouldn't consider that. And I think last year when like they called him up and then he really wasn't getting any time, like I had that thought, like, why wouldn't you just move this dude for some kind of need that you have, if you have any? And I feel like they maybe had some bullpen needs last year, but once again, they do the right thing. They keep him, and it's paying off now. And he's had a few interesting moments, though, we should talk about before we move on. Aside from his really good play, first he accused the Rockies in a roundabout way of like kind of sort of cheating. And then last night, I don't know if you saw this, I think one of the Giants players slid into home plate. He tagged him out and looked like he got a little hurt. I can't remember who the player was. And rushing as he was walking off the field, the cameras caught him. Like he looked back, noticed the guy might be injured, and you could read his lips. He's like, fuck him. So rushing is not making any friends outside of LA. But give me your thoughts on the cheating accusations. And I don't know, again, I don't know if you saw that moment last night, but if you did, what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, he has an edge to him. Reminds me of Joe Kelly a little bit in LA, where he becomes this cult favorite, and he is very much endearing himself to the Los Angeles fan base right now. And these, I understand superstars drive the narrative and the headlines and all of that, but underneath a baseball team, a winning team, is moments like this, guys like this. And he feels like he has a piece on this Dodgers roster if they're going for a three-peat. So yeah, I think all of that is kind of shows the character of this guy who wants to win and wants to make his name while he has the opportunity. As far as the cheating accusations, I think you put it best on our Twitter at Tablesetters Pod about you should really dive deep into the stats about, you know, he was accusing the Colorado Rockies of having the pitches or stealing signs or whatever he was trying to accuse them of. They backtracked on that, by the way, and acted like they weren't. But the Rockies swing first more than any team, the most aggressive team, which has been working out for them this year. And that's who they are. There's a lot of young hitters in that lineup that have reckless abandon, and they're going to swing. And for Dalton Rushing to make that accusation, or at least allude to it, is ridiculous. If you just, again, look at any piece of statistical data over the past year and a half, 2 years with this Colorado Rockies team, they are reckless and they swing at first pitches. So I don't think they have the signs. I mean, you are just not adjusting as a team.
Yeah, like they lead, like you said, it's very clear. Like you just go to Baseball Savant or look at the scouting report, you'll see that this is what they do. So that wasn't a great look, and I think pretty much every fan can agree to that, other than maybe some Dodger fans that might defend him. But yeah, I just wanted to give love to those two guys. And again, you mentioned some of the other guys as well that are pitching in big time. And the Dodgers are a juggernaut, man, not just because of Shohei Ohtani, but the depth is unreal.
Well, the other thing is, you mentioned the glasses for Max Muncy. It reminds me of the story that was coming out of Toronto with Nathan Lucas, and he's been battling vertigo and has been using strategies to figure this out. He's been playing better at this point. He was, using what they're calling the Epley maneuver, medication clearly to manage the symptoms. I know Noel McLean as well battles vertigo as well, which is not fun. Dizziness and unsteadiness on your feet. So I can imagine playing baseball at the highest level would be very difficult if you can't see straight, whether it be via glasses or vertigo. So able to figure that out and get it ready. But yeah, man, I think for the Dodgers too, we're not even sitting here in the headline. And I think it does speak to who they are and how this team is constructed, that we're not sitting here and what are they going to do without Edwin Diaz? He's out until after the All-Star break. I think for a lot of us have been watching baseball for a very long time, and especially with the Death Star that is this Dodgers team, I can't help but look at it, and I know you are the same way, that this feels advantageous for the Dodgers, for Edwin Diaz to be out and be almost firing on all cylinders. You just know by September his velocity is going to be at where it was last year. It's concerning to me watching it, and I'm a fantasy owner of Edwin Diaz. I unfortunately had to drop him with not enough IL spots. But I mean, I don't understand what happened and why they weren't able to see this in the offseason when they signed him to the big amount of money they did, or maybe they didn't care. Maybe they were just like, he'll get healthy, we'll get him back. And all of a sudden, Tanner Scott, who was the guy who almost ruined baseball, if you remember when he first got signed to the Dodgers, all these, I think it's 2 off seasons ago, he was the guy that broke the camel's back for everyone being like, the Dodgers are ruining baseball. And then it was adding Kyle Tucker. It was Tanner Scott. I remember people were losing.
It was Tanner Scott. And then a couple days later, they also signed Kirby Yates, who was like the best closer on the market, who like now you wouldn't think much of that. But Kirby Yates was coming out off an incredible year. So they're like, holy sh! Like anyone who wanted their team to sign a closer, like, you're going to take that guy too? And yeah, the ball just kept on snowballing after that. But Yeah, the Diaz thing. Listen, you and I predicted this last week, or whenever the last time we talked about Diaz as a guy who was struggling majorly. We said clearly they're giving him a little time. Yeah, like clearly they're giving him a little time. If he comes back and still looks like not himself, they're going to IL him and we won't see him, but he'll come back when they need him and he'll probably be himself. We've seen this act before. They've admitted to it. They let guys stay on the IL for longer than they truly need just because they really want them ready for the stretch in the postseason. And if that's what Edwin Diaz needs, that's what he'll get.
Dude, Blake Snell right now has Dorito dust on his fingers, all over the controller in front of while he's on stream playing whatever video game right now. He'll be ready.
I will say,
for
man,
October.
That any clip of him crashing out on his video game streams fucking cracks me up. That shit is hilarious because this dude, he is exactly what he looks like. Like if you saw Blake Snell, you had no idea who this dude was, and you just created a story in your head of like who he is. Other than the baseball side, you would picture him like streaming himself playing video games, just yelling at people that are making comments he doesn't like. Hilarious.
Yeah, talking baseball and then also yelling at people while playing Call of Duty. That is Blake Snell. But he'll be ready throwing upper 90s with ridiculous movement on the ball come October for the Dodgers.
On my fantasy team, so I'm hoping he can contribute a little bit. The rumor is like late May. I'll take that if it's the real Blake Snell.
So let's talk about another National League team here, and we're going to be talking about Nico Hoerner and the conversation to be made of maybe being the most valuable player for the National League at the end of the year. And at some point, we have to sit here and stop questioning. I know we're continuing to say what's late, what's early, when can we start taking things seriously? I don't think we can dismiss this Nico start as just being hot. We're looking at the way he's playing. He looks like a superstar. He's not just a good all-around player that he was getting accolades for just last year. It feels like he turned the corner. Right now, you look at what he's doing offensively. 4 home runs, hitting after hitting just 7 all of last season. That's something to make note of. 326, 402, 533 slash line from him. If he even settles in that 15 to 20 home run range, which a lot of people were not thinking he can get there, you're not just looking at potentially a contact first second baseman. You're talking about this guy who has a complete offensive profile. And what really separates him from me in a game of baseball in 2026 where everyone's spamming strikeouts, that's a guy who almost never strikeouts. His strikeout rate is among the lowest in baseball, and the 98.9% zone contact rate is just absurd. When you look at some of the numbers and really dive deep into the player, and when he swings, the ball is being put in play. That skill right now is even more valuable in high leverage spots. We watched that happen in the World Series. One ball in play can decide everything. And I really think that this player right now, especially for Chicago Cubs team, we're going to be talking about the NL Central a little bit. They're looking to take the next step. And Nico Hoerner, he was a guy in conversations. Maybe it was just pie in the sky that we all wanted him on our team. It felt like he was, I wouldn't say tradable, but it felt like there were murmurs about it. Now it feels like he's untouchable.
Yeah. And the reason we're putting this out there, like some people might be listening, like Nico Hoerner MVP, you guys crazy. Well, I mean, listen, he's at the top of the NL as far as FWAR goes, which is why I felt like this was an interesting conversation. 1.4 FWAR only trails Yordan Alvarez when you look at the whole league, but he's atop the National League all by himself. And I mean, the betting websites are not buying into it yet by any means. He's plus 10,000 on BetMGM. Meanwhile, Ohtani's minus 350. Ronald Acuna's next up at plus 1,000. So they still think it's Ohtani's game, which obviously I don't blame him. Corbin Carroll at plus 1,300, making a case. But yeah, you look at the stolen bases, the defense is pristine. And if he adds a little power, like you said, hits for average, like he's a guy who can do everything. He has made himself as valuable as he could possibly be. And if he can keep this up, I mean, you got to at least have the conversation. Top 15 in slugging percentage right now in the National League, top 10 in WRC plus in the National League, top 3 in batting average, top 5 in K percentage. Like you mentioned, he's not going to strike out very often. Top 5 in stolen bases. He has 3 DRS, which is tied for the best among second basemen. 3 OAA, third among all players in the National League. So you like put all that stuff together, and it's a pretty compelling case. And obviously, we have miles to go in the season, but like, if we look at a hypothetical, let's say Nico Hoerner ends the season hitting 320, let's say 15 bombs, like you were kind of saying, between 15 and 20. Let's give him like 18, okay? Let's say he hits 320, 18 home runs, drives in 90, steals 30 to 35 bases, and he plays a Gold Glove defense. And Ohtani has a slightly down year for him. Let's say he hits like 245, hits 35 bombs, not really stealing bases anymore, and he pitches to like a 4 ERA. And obviously that value is hard to overcome when he does both. But he's kind of like very good, but maybe not as good as we're used to on both sides. Like, do you think Hoerner gets consideration for MVP there, or do you think it's still like, nah, we can't vote against the guy who's doing both?
It's hard, like you said before, it's hard to put any tally against Ohtani because of just what history has shown us. But like we're saying before, I think that there is a case to make that he's going to get some votes on some ballots if he continues to play this way. And I also believe maybe there's some questioning. It's not the same player, but it's also the same team where PCA puttered out at the end of the year. And maybe they're hoping that Nico can continue this going forward, because we got to remember Ohtani has the track record. Some of these superstar players, the judges of the world, have a track record of doing it for a full 162. And for Nico, like we said, it's the end of April. He's playing really well, high average, high contact, improved power, the situational production. The defense is incredible, as you mentioned. Perfect efficiency on the base. He's 7 for 7 stolen bases. And he's a complete player right now, but let's see it over the course of 162. I like, as we're going to talk about our next topic, of projecting it out. If it continues on this road, we know baseball does put some roadblocks on the path, but it's fun to conceptualize what it may look like for a player like him, because it's putting value again on the fundamentals of baseball. I know you played baseball your whole life, and watching a player like this, it emphasizes the importance of doing everything well instead of just being good at one very good thing. And a lot of players do that very well, but for him, it feels like he's checking every box and doing it at a very high level.
Obviously, like, the Mets just came off a series against the Cubs, and I came away from that series thinking, like, and I already thought this, but it kind of just drove it home even more. Like, it must be such a pleasure to watch Nico Hoerner as a member of your team every single day. And shout out to the Cubs, because the rumor for a while, especially when Matt Shaw came up last year, was that like Nico Hoerner was going to end up being the odd man out. Just a couple months ago, if you looked at next year's free agent class, it's considered a pretty weak class, especially among position players. No, there's no Juan Soto's or Shohei Ohtani's out there this year, right? And the Cubs ended up, going the other way. They locked him up. 6 years, $141 million. They signed him to that contract extension in March. And honestly, it could end up looking like a great deal, because a lot of people thought they were going to trade him away or he'd walk. And honestly, he probably would have been the best offensive player, or one of the top 2 or 3 best offensive players available in free agency. Not going to happen anymore. Like I said, I think it's just, you love seeing a guy that he's squeezing every ounce out of himself as far as the player he can be. Like, and he's getting better on the power, added some muscle. We did hear that before the season. So when you see him hitting some more home runs, like, maybe it shouldn't be a surprise.
No, for sure. And I think it's gonna be fun to watch. We'll talk about the NL Central in a little bit, but let's head over to the AL Central with Munetaka Murakami. And he's been a revelation for a lot of fantasy players, just watching him play, and kind of been, we had the conversation, and we'll talk about some of the flaws in his game as far as the profile goes. But right now, we're not seeing it. Through 23 games, 9 home runs, 17 RBIs, 21 walks, 31 strikeouts, the 978 OPS as well. And on the road, he's already launched 7 home runs and just 50 at bats, a 413 on base percentage. And he's not just feeding off one environment. That's what everyone's liking to see, because he's hitting home run all over the ballpark. You can see the power is kind of varied as far as where it's going. And for this player, again, we look at the projections for him, and a lot of people were shying away. I know the New York Mets, they signed Jorge Polanco for more money, same amount of years, because a lot of teams look at Murakami, and the reason why he landed with the Chicago White Sox in the South Side is because of the strikeouts. And right now we're not seeing it, because the projection line, as I'm saying, and I'm not saying we're staying here because it is a long season ahead of us. If you really age out and average out this whole year, if he continues this pace, we're looking at a 63 home run, 120 RBI pace, 148 walks. That is unreal. Do I believe in my heart of hearts that that's going to continue? No, I don't. I believe that eventually we will see the strikeouts. The projection line is very aggressive, but that just tells you how amazing that this start has been. It's not going to be the expectation going forward, but it frames the type of impact he's creating early in a lineup that so desperately needed a power guy. And you look at some of the hitters that the White Sox are putting together for this young core, whether it's Colson, Montgomery, and Murakami, like they're going out there, and there's a reason to go out to see this team because they're putting the ball in play on every single time you see him.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a poor offensive team among many numbers, but at least they have some exciting dudes to go watch and some highlights, right? That we, instead of just a bunch of lowlights and like, haha, White Sox, oh my God, look how they lost tonight. I mean, it's not just the amount of home runs he's hitting. When he hits a home run, it's something you have to watch back a few times.
Majestic.
The one he hit over the batter's eye, where was that? Was that Sacramento? When he hit the one over the bat? That was unreal. And I think listen, a lot of the things that people said about him are true, and they're proving to be true. But one thing they said he couldn't hit fastballs, couldn't hit velocity. He's hitting 250 against fastballs so far with 6 home runs. 6 of his home runs are against fastballs. So that one's not necessarily staying true. Pulled air percentage, I talked about it earlier, being like the stat to look at, 23.8%. League average is 16.7. So like he has that down. That's on his side. 9 home runs, right? This is what I was alluding to. Like, yes, the whiff is bad and the K percentage is bad, but we kind of were told that was going to be bad. The thing that I think makes you excited is, okay, he's bad at what we thought he was bad at, but he's better. He's even better in the areas we thought he'd be pretty good at, if that makes any sense. Like, here are the things we think he's going to be pretty good at. Oh, he's actually even better than that. And the bad parts, oh, we knew that already, and we are cool with it. If he actually can do these things well, he's doing these other things really, really, really well. Not only is he hitting bombs, but what I love about him is he's walking at such a high rate. 3rd in the league in walk percentage, only behind Kurtz and Garrett Mitchell. 21.2% walk percentage. So he's getting on base in that way. He's walked 21 times before tonight. Chase percentage. So as bad as the whiff is, and as bad as the strikeout percentage is, at least he's not adding to it with chasing out of the zone really bad. His chase percentage is in the 95th percentile, just a 19% chase rate. That's huge for a guy with his profile. A lot of red on that Savant page if you go look. Exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit, all in the upper 90s on percentiles. So like, it's hard not to buy in or at least put your foot in the water a little bit. Like, I'm starting to kind of believe this. And if he keeps it up, he's making a lot of GMs look super foolish.
Yeah, and I have him right now. I'm lucky enough to have him on my fantasy team, so I'm able to track it every day and watch the at-bats. We know he's going to strike out. That's eventually going to increase. I mean, looking at the span, the ratio does pay off when you're seeing the power at that clip we are seeing. So if we can get any version of the player, as you mentioned, doing the things that we thought he was going to do well, even better, and we see the flaws and he continues to be that player, and he at some point can control the zone, you're going to accept the strikeouts from the player, and he's going to turn mistakes into damage. He looks like he's comfortable up there. And we talk about transitioning into Major League Baseball, comparing to Tetsuya Imai in Houston. It just shows, I mean, these are 2 players that are making the transition over to the United States and the culture of Major League Baseball. One player, Murakami, is certainly adapting pretty well, while Imai sitting on the IL and making waves saying that he's not comfortable. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you're living right over there, dude. In our head-to-head points league, it's important to preface that because different guys are a little more valuable in the point setting. But you have Murakami over there, you have Sal Stewart over there, not to mention some other studs that like guys we already knew were studs. Corbin Carroll, Acuna, who would probably be even better. Jordan, like, dude. I mean, you're living right for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. My team, I'm feeling very good right now. And the other thing, I'm having a slow start from Acuna. We did have the scare by being hit on the hand, but he seems okay. He was back in the lineup. He's not hitting like you'd want him to. He had an RBI today, but you know, we're hoping for a little bit more out of Acuna on this team. And right now I have Connor Griffin sitting on my bench because I have to start Otto Lopez on a daily basis because I love me some Miami Marlins right now.
You're gonna order the Otto Lopez. You got to order the Otto Lopez jersey or something.
But the thing is, like with this Marlins team, and I'm watching them play every day. They won again today. They go out there and they just play baseball and put the ball in play, and they're stealing bases. It's a lot of fun for fantasy baseball. I'm going out there, and I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket for a team, but I sure have a lot of shares in the Miami Marlins right now.
Well, I mean, I have a little bit
as a team though. I didn't want him. I picked him up because I needed somebody, and I can't let him go. He's right now in our points, and again, early 26th overall in points. That's how good he's been.
I didn't realize that until you said it today. I didn't even, when you said the Otto Lopez thing in text, I'm like, I don't even know what Steve's talking about. And I had to catch myself up on what Otto Lopez has been doing. But I have some stock in the Marlins too. Robbie Snelling is one of my guys. I'm waiting to get called up. He's killing it down in AAA right now. Looks the part. I could use a little help. My pitching staff's not bad, but I feel like I have a couple spots where I really need some stability. Peyton Tolley is another guy I have. The rumor is, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, that is he might get the start tomorrow against the Yankees. Not the greatest way to. I know he was up last year, so it's not technically his debut, but not the team you necessarily want to face in your first 2026 Major League start, but hoping for good things from him too.
Maybe we'll see the Navy Yankees debut this tomorrow.
Yeah,
I know that they approved it. Brian Hawk was out there and he had made it known. I know that it started to in the Athletic. They posted the article about the Yankees wanting to introduce anonymous players, came out and they said they wanted an alternate jersey, the navy blue batting practice one. It sits in their locker anyway. And then obviously, I think it was Andrew Kirshner in the Athletic came out with this very angry article about making the Yankees and disrespecting legacy. Come on, dude. It's 2026. Catch up with the times, dude. What's the problem with having a jersey that's navy blue? I'm sorry. Like it's so everyone that wants to act like that. And I'm a huge Yankee fan, but like for them to hold the Yankees in high regard, it's just every team with history can have the history, but also catch up with the times. If the players want to wear a different color, grow up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you might upset the ghosts, man. You don't want to upset the ghosts, but I will say, Aaron Judge, I think,
they haven't won a World Series since 2009. Like, what are we talking about? This isn't the Yankees from the 90s. This isn't Billy Martin's Yankees. Grow up.
Judge had a good quote where they kind of asked him about that, like the tradition, and he said I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of like he said, I love tradition. I'm all for tradition, but like we're wearing this patch sponsor, whatever their sponsor is right now on our arms. So
our
like
insurance, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that kind of won me over. I'm like, yeah, I like what he's saying there. That makes it's true. Like, if you can do that, why can't you have an alternate jersey that people are actually going to like enjoy buying and representing?
I know you're an Irish fan. I remember when Notre Dame did this at first, where they were just wearing the two classic jerseys, the gold helmet, and then something shifted. I know Oregon, the football program, changed all of sports as far as uniforms go.
Definitely.
But Notre Dame, they wear a whole bunch of alternative jerseys now, right? And hats. And
oh my God. And most of them are sick too. I want to say there was one where I looked at it and I was like, nah. But for the most part, I love my favorite Notre Dame Fighting Irish football jersey is when they wear the Kelly green jerseys and the gold helmet. And I'm trying to think that I'm not sure what pants they have on with that, but just the Kelly green top and the gold helmets, and then they shine them up real good. So those things are shining. Yeah. Those are fantastic. But yeah, they've added other ones on top of that since then.
It's what recruiters have noticed, that some kids want to play in nice uniforms, and the Oregon Ducks proved it. Their whole football program, I believe, and they got a national championship out of it by making the program have the best uniforms in sports. And a lot of other programs identified that as a strength. And it's happened all across a whole bunch of different sports. And it's not a recruiting thing, but I think it is a valuable thing. Look good, feel good type of thing.
By the way, we're going to talk about football just very quickly. New York Giants. I couldn't wear a Mets hat tonight. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And you know what? They broke the streak. So maybe that worked a little bit. But New York Giants here representing 2 top 10 picks, man. That's exciting times. I sad to see a guy like Dexter Lawrence go, but he was pretty much going to force our hand to get. I did not think we were getting a pick that high. Usually when your hand is forced like that, you're either just letting the guy stay here and finding him and just kind of playing chicken with the dude, or you're settling for something. And you're like, oh, that's all we got for this dude who's still in his prime. So I don't want to say excited, because it's still like a weird feeling when you're letting a Pro Bowl caliber player walk. And I don't know who's taking his spot on the interior. Not to talk too much football, but to have 2 top 10 picks when there's some pretty good talent out there hanging around in the top 10, I'm excited. Hopefully Joe Shane doesn't screw this one up, and just let Harbaugh do it. Honestly, like, Shane, take it back.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as the NFL draft goes, the Knicks playoff game is going to be a 2-screen night, because as a football fan, the Packers don't have a pick in the first round because of the Micah Parsons trade. But it's just great theater. You get a nice cold drink, you get some food, you watch the NFL draft. That first day is magical. The Thursday is a magical experience to watch the NFL draft. And for you, this is a very influential draft, as you mentioned, Harbaugh, and like just resetting the blueprint of what this team will be. There's something about it, because we talk about this all the time with baseball and the pipeline and all that. You guys have heard that before endless amount of times from us, but for football, these guys you're watching be drafted. They could eventually be a part of the team next year and maybe be part of a championship team. That's how quick it turns around. The Seattle Seahawks have done that 2 times now, two different franchise altering drafts.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. There's talent to be had out there. So we'll see. We'll be talking about it soon, maybe a little bit, even though it's a baseball podcast, but every once in a while we're going to slip some things in there. But let's get to our next segment here. I believe this is basically, I would consider the 3rd season of Table Setters, right? It's the 3rd regular season we have covered through Table Setters. And one segment that we've done a lot in the years past, but I do not think we've done since the regular season started this year yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but take a pitch or swing away. It's basically our version of a buy or sell. So I'll give you a take, or Steve will give me a take or a quote, and we will either take the pitch, which means we are staying away, we are selling that, or we will swing away, which means, yes, we're going to buy it, put both of our feet in the pool. So I'll give you one, and we'll both commented on it, but I'm going to throw this one your way first. Do we have a bumper for this before I start, or should we just go in?
Play the Ken Griffey baseball music in the background. Why not?
All right, let's do that. All right, so here's the first one. Take a pitch or swing away. It is unfair that the Dodgers get to carry an extra pitcher. And before you give me an answer, for anyone listening, we're referencing Craig Counsell's recent comments, where basically, here's the background. In under MLB rules, 2-way players don't count against the 13 pitcher roster limit. So Shohei Ohtani effectively gives the Dodgers one more pitcher than any other team. Before the Cubs game back on Monday, Counsell called the rule bizarre and suggested it gives the Dodgers an unfair advantage. He says there's not another player like that, but one team gets different rules for that player. Obviously, Dave Roberts then kind of fired back like, well, go get yourself a 2-way player, as if they grow on frickin' trees. But anyway, Steve, are you taking the pitcher swinging away that it is unfair for the Dodgers to carry an extra pitcher?
I am taking the pitch because of the reasons that we kind of talk about all the time. It's not an extra pitcher. It's a frustration about Shohei Ohtani. And heavy lies the crown. Shohei Ohtani is a one-of-a-kind player. He's a unicorn. The Dodgers do get a roster advantage. There's no doubt about it because he does qualify as a two-way player. But this rule isn't Dodger specific. And you mentioned like they don't grow on trees, but really any team can benefit from it. We hear all the time as far as on broadcast where they talk about these players that are on teams. And I know the Yanks were talking about some of the Yanks broadcast was talking about the Royals, talking about these players that have pitched before. And maybe that's the gap. There are plenty of 2-way players in college. How do we transcend that? How do we eventually get those players to be at the big league level? It doesn't translate to Major League Baseball. I understand that. Ohtani is elite. The advantage isn't the rule. It's the player. I mean, unless you want to make a rule against the fact that Shohei Ohtani is probably the greatest baseball player we've ever seen, I am taking the pitch and it's not even question. I'm not even thinking about swinging at it.
All right, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to swing away here. And I understand this is not necessarily just a Shohei Ohtani rule, but I think they need to take a look at it again. I do feel like we shouldn't use the word unfair, but I feel like this is too big of an advantage for a team. It's a big advantage to basically get an extra pitcher. I have no problem with some of the other Shohei Ohtani specialty rules, like the whole thing with him getting extra warm-up time, right, when he's doing both. I know the Blue Jays weren't happy with that. Even recently, George Springer was like, when they played this season, kind of asking the ump, like, what's going on? And I know they got a little annoyed about it last year in the World Series too. That one, I don't honestly have a beef with. This one, and again, not really blaming the Dodgers. That's not where I'm going, but I think Counsell has a point. Maybe he shouldn't have, maybe he could have said it in a different way where it didn't seem like he was complaining out of nowhere. They weren't even playing the Dodgers at the time. They play soon, but they weren't playing the Dodgers at the time. But yeah, I'm going to swing away. I do feel like they need to take another look at that rule and see if they can tweak it or get rid of it. I'm not here offering a solution, so I will say that, but I'm going to swing away and say that there's something a little bit wrong with that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely worth the conversation for sure. I mean, I'm sitting here and like I said, I'm not going to swing at the pitch, but I do hear what you're saying as far as maybe since Ohtani is so great and he's doing things we never thought were possible, it's something to at least have the conversation about, especially with the new labor agreement that certainly be out there. But our second take a pitch swing away, I'll pass it to you first. The Reds are the best team in the National League Central. So right now they lost today to the Tampa Bay Rays, but they sit in first place by half a game over the Chicago Cubs, who are winners of 8 straight, hot on that tail.
Yeah, this is a tougher one than you would think. I am going to take the pitch. I'm not going to buy into yet that they are definitely the best team in the NL Central. That division is also absolutely nuts if you've looked at the standings the last week or so. I think the division has a lot of good teams in it. It's exciting. It's fun. I hope these teams, like all of them, stay in it. Makes for great entertainment. The story of the Reds is really hard to figure right now because you certainly have to absolutely love what you see from Sal Stewart, Ellie De La Cruz, who suddenly has figured out how to hit from the right side. This is an underreported story. He's doing some things differently from the right side. A lot of people were telling him just drop the switch hitting and hit from the left. Most of his home runs came from the left. He has 6 home runs from the right side this year, and we're only in April. That matches his career high from the right side. It's a big, big deal for a player like Ellie De La Cruz, who might be like, he's already been really good and taking kind of baby steps each year. Looks like he might be taking a bigger jump this year if it keeps up, which is really exciting to think about. Chase Burns, Rhett Lauder, you have to love what you see from these guys. And honestly, there's no reason not to believe in those guys. The numbers, hate to be the nerd here, but the numbers paint a picture that makes me think this might not be sustainable. They've scored 97 runs, which is 22nd in Major League Baseball. Their run differential is, after today's loss, is -2. Like, it's not even in the positive. Team batting average is dead last at 207 in the majors. Their slugging percentage is 28th. Their on-base percentage is 26th. So I think it's fair to see all that and wonder, like, how are they doing this? There are positives, which make you want to swing the other way a little bit and make it a little harder to give an answer. But they do walk a lot. 11.3% walk percentage is the 6th best in the majors. 28.6% chase percentage is the 4th best. So discipline looks good. Team ERA of 3.47, 8th best. You got Lodolo coming back hopefully soon. Hunter Green down the road hopefully. One of the big things, best bullpen ERA in the majors, 2.54. That's a huge deal. Well, you see teams all the time blowing leads late and how frustrating that can be. For OAA as a team, defensively tied for 7th best. But then on the other side, if you look at the other metric that people like, DRS as a team, -5, which is 5th worst. So it's hard to figure, like, are they good defensively or not, or somewhere in the middle. So there's a lot to like, but it feels like offensively they're going to need more if they're going to win the division. They're going to need more pop for Eugenio Suarez. Matt McClain, like, what happened? You were looking like a superstar in spring training. He's hitting 198, 0 home runs, has not been able to carry it into the regular season. They're going to need more from him. The bullpen, which has been fantastic, likely eventually they're going to have a bad stretch with the bullpen at some point. I don't think that's going out on a limb. So there's some things where we're going to need to see. I think mainly the story is they're going to need more contributors on the offensive side. Ellie and Sal Stewart, great. And they can make you a playoff team, but I think you're going to need other guys to chip in more if you're going to be a division winner. So I take the pitch, but I will say I very much like what the Reds are doing. I do think I had them. I have to look back now. I either had them just missing the playoffs or just making it. But I like what I see. I'm not going to kill them, but some of those numbers make it a little confusing.
Yeah, I'm taking the pitch as well, just because of how good the division is. I like what the Reds have done, and I'll make the case to be optimistic about them. I'm not going to reiterate the numbers because you did a good job of that, talking about where they are struggling offensively. The pitching is carrying the load here. They're top heavy with the 2 players, as you mentioned, with Stewart and Ellie De La Cruz. If the Reds stay bottom tier offensively, they've shown that they can still be competitive. And I guess glass half full type of conversation. If they reach league average, they're going to be a playoff team. And if production likely shows like consistently like they did last night, scoring 12 runs, with everyone in Greater Cincinnati are saying, I'm super stoked to see that happen. Of course, losing today didn't help, but they become a legitimate division favorite if you start looking at combining those things. So is it going to happen consistently? It's tough to say. This division is maybe the bigger conversation, even though I'm taking the pitch and I think the Cubs are still going to win it. This division right now is the only division in Major League Baseball at all teams above 500. And historically, again, it's super early. That caveat is going to exist in all our conversations. 0 divisions have ever finished with all teams above 500 since 1969, and only 2 divisions ever had all teams above 500 as far as before that. So we're uncharted territory right now for the NL Central. This is a division that was always dunked on historically, being the easy NL Central going to go out there, but it shows the magic can work where the Pittsburgh Pirates are coming out there and being a little bit more competitive. When the Brewers are sitting at 13 wins in last place, it shows how good this division really is. I still have belief the Cubs are going to be there at the end of the year, despite the Cade Horton injury. I love what I see from Shota. He's red hot right now. But
oh my God. Yep.
Cincinnati, I do like, and it's potential they're going to be competitive all year. And if, like I said before, if they're doing this with bottom tier offense, what are they going to do when they become league average? Because we believe in the bats in that lineup.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to watch just the entire division. Matthew Boyd came back for the Cubs tonight, went 4 2/3, 2 runs on 5 hits, 5 strikeouts. So kind of getting his feet wet again. But that's a big deal, especially after losing Horton. The Cubs did beat the Phillies, so the Phillies have now lost 8 in a row, now tied with the Mets. I mean, NL East, you just thought for years now, it's felt like a 3-team race, and we just assumed it was going to be a 3-team race again. And the Braves feel like they could run away and hide pretty damn early. But anyway, I mean, I don't want to go back over there. It's just crazy to think how that's happening with both of those teams at the same time. But let's go to our last one here for Take a Pitch or Swing Away, and we'll move to the West Coast here. Here's the statement. You can tell me if you're swinging away or taking the pitch here. The Padres can stay neck and neck with the Dodgers all season long.
I'm swinging away at this, and I believe it's kind of goes hand in hand with the conversation we had about the Dodgers, where the Dodgers are going to allow some of this. And maybe that's more of the Dodgers playing with their food and not really going for the killer in the year and saving the bullets for the end of the year. But the Padres, there's something magical brewing. And I'm not saying it's going to end in a World Series, but there's a lot of, as our boys at Divine Sports Gospel always preach, vibes above replacement. There's a vibe going on there. The Padres are doing it in a way that translates for them. They won 11 of the last 12. They're sitting right now at 16-7 right now. Winners of 3 straight, 9-1 in their last 10. And they did something at Coors Field, which you have to put some love on. They won 1-0. And that doesn't happen at Coors Field ever. Most teams need offense to survive there. They did it with the pitching. Randy Vasquez gave them 7 scoreless with a 1.88 ERA.
Great.
That's part of this bigger trend of what they're doing. Even though Nick Pivetta is hurt, they're finding ways to win games. And we haven't seen the best out of Fernando Tatis Jr. He can't get the ball at the ballpark. Something's wrong with him as far as his swing goes. We've got to figure that out. But for the Dodgers, like, we know who they are. And I think the Dodgers are not going to go run away and hide because of, like we talked about, the Edwin Diaz conversation. And maybe, again, is that playing with your food? Is this taking your competition lightly? This feels like a strategy on the Dodgers' part to let everyone hang around and then sprint at the end to get to the finish line. So I do think the Padres are going to hang around all year and make for exciting baseball in California.
Yeah, I mean, they're in Colorado still here. They're losing 5-1 tonight. Walker Buehler got roughed up, didn't get out of the 3rd inning. But we'll see. There's still some time left in that game, and it is Coors, so we don't want to declare it over. Walker Buehler is an interesting story because he's had some good starts this year, but he's come away frustrated because he's basically been very honest. He feels like he's this close, he keeps on saying. Like he almost has it. He said earlier in the season, this is the first time since before surgery that his elbow doesn't hurt. So Walker Buehler is an interesting one. I think when they signed him, it felt like just a throwaway thing. But Ruben Niebla, like, he works some wonders there in San Diego for years now. And I like the Lucas Giolito signing today as well. Like everyone's saying for a while, like, where's Giolito? Why is he not being signed? I like that landing spot for him a lot. Obviously, the Nick Pivetta injury is unfortunate. But the Tatis thing is also, I'm glad you mentioned him. I think I read earlier today, and I apologize, I'm a little off, but it was something along the lines of Tatis has more hard hit balls than anyone this season, but he's going oppo too much. Again, we go back to pull air percentage, which seems to be a common theme tonight, where he's hitting the ball oppo maybe a little too much, and it's taking away from his power. Still hasn't hit a home run, right? No home runs?
Nope.
Which is, I mean, we saw him go through this last year where, like, he had that power drought for a long time. So it's interesting. Like, Tatis feels like he's been around for a long time at this point, but I still feel like he's trying to figure out what kind of player he actually is. I'm not saying he's playing well. Like, he's still been a very valuable player to that team. But who is he? Is he a 40 home run guy? Is he more of a 20 home run guy that hits for average and hits the ball to all fields and plays good defense? Like, I feel like we see a different version of Fernando Tatis like every single season. But I'm burying the lead. Like, to go back to the statement, I'm with you on this one. I think this is we agree on this one as well. As far as I'm going to swing away, when you look at the roster on paper, you don't feel like this team is supposed to be able to stay competitive with the Dodgers. But you're right. The Dodgers kind of take their foot off the gas sometimes, let guys hang on the IL longer than they probably need to, get them fully healthy, wait for the postseason. The Padres are out there. The vibes are high. The fact that they've done this well with some of the injuries they have, and with Tatis not hitting for power, Jackson Merrill playing great defense, but still he has not been able to reestablish that offense that he put up in 2024 in his rookie year. He's hitting, I think, around 220 or something like that, 3 home runs. Seems to rob a home run every day, which is nice, but you'd like to see one of those guys or both come a little more forward offensively whether it's in the power department or somewhere else. But I do. There's something, this is more of a feel thing than a number thing. I feel like they're going to be able to hang around. They just feels like they know how to do this. They've been in this battle before. And obviously the bullpen is still just such a strength for them. Mason Miller, the game's over. And other guys in that bullpen are nasty as well. So yeah, I'm with you. I'll swing away at that one.
And also, while it fits in here, want to congratulate Devon Sports Gospel for getting a hell of a guest. You mentioned his name, Mason Miller, going to be on the show, I believe, later this week. So awesome for them. Can't wait to listen to what they have going on there. And at the end of the day, I understand it might be a loser mentality for a baseball fan, but it's about the journey sometimes. And I think for the Padres, all you can ask for is for them to be competitive and give you a reason to watch them on every given night and give you this belief of on any given day. We know when the Dodgers get to the dance, they can be defeated. We've seen it happen. So I know that they won the World Series 2 years in a row at this point, and they feel unstoppable, but the Padres have this thing about them where you see the jersey across the field from the Dodgers. You're like, I'm not sure. Maybe this can do it all vibes team can figure it out and beat them when it matters for the NOS. But maybe someone can knock the Dodgers off when they stop taking the end of the season seriously. When, like you said, taking the foot off the gas, playing with your food, whatever it is, someone has to knock them off their throne while they're doing that, because the strategy works at this point. Edwin Diaz out after surgery. We mentioned Blake Snell playing around with these players and not being fully right. Maybe someone can take them out while they're sleeping.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Only time will tell. But
I don't think so.
Yeah, one could hope. But I was going to ask you, did you watch or listen to the Jeff Passan interview with Dave Roberts and Schneider? I didn't get to. I saw a couple clips, but I actually want to watch the entire thing.
It's well done. It's the first time I've watched anything of Jeff Passan put out as far as the podcast. I'm not sure if it's the first episode or not, but they have retro graphics from it looks like from NES or SNES for the graphics, and they're putting little tidbits, almost like pop-up video, where they're putting factoids on the screen as they're speaking. Schneider and Dave Roberts, it's cool to see, and it was funny. I was watching it. John Schneider shows up in full Blue Jays manager gear, like the cut sweatshirt and the hat, and Dave Roberts shows up in this GQ sweater, and it's you couldn't tell me we're going to dress nice on this day. I know they were playing each other, but John Schneider was in full uniform while Dave Roberts was rocking some sweater with a nice little button at the top.
Yeah, I'll have to tune in. I got to be honest, Dave Roberts sometimes really pisses me off. I can't listen to him for very long. He makes me. There's something about how he answers questions that makes me mad, but I do want to at least tune into that one. But we're going to move along here to the next segment and just very briefly talk about a couple polls we put up and the results and what we thought of them as far as polls we put up on X in the past week. And the first one we'll start with here, and this was the one we put in probably earlier in the week, in the middle, or I don't know, the last quarter of the Mets 12-game losing streak. The question was pretty simple. Would you be excited if the team you root for acquired Francisco Lindor this year? And that's not saying we think it's going to happen. I was curious to see where people's feelings are on the player that is Francisco Lindor. And there's a lot that goes into it. There's the performance. There's also is he getting along with his teammates? Is he still having fun? The mental lapses, the contract. Is it a contract you'd be okay with? And we didn't really get much clarity here. It was a 50-50 poll. 50% of the people that voted said yes, and 50% said no. So I ask you, a Yankee fan, Anthony Volpe in the mix, Jose Caballero, both have their own struggles. If the Yankees were to acquire Francisco Lindor this year, would you be excited?
what's the context as far as what the package is? Is it reasonable? Like the package was reasonable? Are we just talking about the player on my team, or are we talking about like
yeah? Try not to think of the whole picture. Just like we now have Francisco Lindor as our shortstop. Are you excited?
I'm 50-50 on it too. I hate to ride
This is
the
why
fence.
I think it's interesting. That's why it's interesting.
I love the profile of the player. I mean, we look at what he did in Cleveland and even like for the Mets. I mean, they got to the NLCS with him largely being the superstar player there. So we know what he can do, but there's something about what's going on in there. And I feel like Lindor is at the center of it. And I'm not sure if it's just the guys around him, management not setting up for success, and maybe a new environment would fix that. Because again, in Cleveland, he was a model citizen as far as being involved in that team, felt like he was the face of the league as far as the little engine that could with the Cleveland Indians, and something changed. And it's funny that the poll, I think it's very telling that it's 50-50 because go back a couple years ago when the Mets did acquire Francisco Lindor, you were stoked. Like, I mean, everyone was like, that's a great move. This is, and especially that they signed him long-term, this is going to cement them as having their superstar player. I don't know if anyone could have predicted that the vibes would be very low on who this player is. It's kind of sad if you think about it, because he's a guy that was fun to watch, is fun to watch. I'm not saying was fun to watch. He is fun to watch, but there's something as far as this relationship goes with the Mets and the media in New York. I don't know if it's a good fit. And I'm not sure if it's like just because they're losing and winning is the best deodorant, but when they're losing, it feels like he's always at the center of controversy, and maybe it's not intentional.
I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride since he's been here. Very topsy-turvy, lots of ups and downs. And the ups are, the highs were very high. Like, there are some incredible moments with Francisco Lindor at the forefront. The lows do feel unnecessarily low, whether it be the Javi Baez stuff and the thumbs down to the fans, or like the recent mental lapses and just feeling like doesn't seem to be excited around his teammates. It's weird. It's been a very, very, very strange tenure with the Mets. And
let me turn it around on you. If the Mets traded him, would you be extraordinarily upset?
This is, to me, tougher because I know I told you just to answer without knowing the package. But on the other end, when you're giving a player away, it's tougher. If I don't have any idea what the package is, tougher. I think this is a little bit of a cop-out answer, but like if they were to trade him away, that means something is going terribly wrong. So I think I'd be sad. I think I'd overall be sad because we're probably in a really, really bad state.
No, that's a fair answer because it feels like he is this key cog in the dam that's keeping things there, good, bad, or indifferent. There's a lot of belief in the front office of who he is or who they believe the player is. And if they do pull that out, it feels like all bets are off. And they clearly, if you look at the way the offseason went with David Stearns and Steve Cohen and the way they looked at this, they got rid of guys that didn't fit into what Francisco Lindor's vision of this team was, if you believe the stuff behind the scenes. But the more that things unravel, it's just like, maybe there's some truth to it, but almost like pro wrestling, and almost like works yourself into a shoot where everything becomes reality because it's perception from the media. And I don't know, it just feels like this infectious negativity, and hopefully they can turn it around in Queens.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. They got one tonight, so step one. But let's go to the other one, and the Mets are involved in this one as well. The other poll we put out there was which struggling or disappointing team has the best chance to turn it around? I believe we put this out there about 3 days ago or so, just for context. And on Twitter, you can only put 4 choices. So I put the Mets, Royals, Astros, and Giants. And there were some comments saying, like, how are the Red Sox not in there? Someone put, why are the Yankees not in there? Which I didn't understand at all. I know they've had some frustrating moments, but like they do not fall into the struggling, disappointing category right now. And the Phillies obviously could have been thrown in there. And I think if we put it up today, they probably would have replaced one of these other teams. But I'll give you the results of the 4 that we put up there. But then I think you and I can discuss all 6 of them: Mets, Royals, Astros, Giants, Phillies, Red Sox, and just pick one each that we think has the best chance of coming out of it and like making a run, maybe not definitely making the playoffs, but like making a run for the playoffs. So the results here were the Mets got 29% of the vote as far as believing they have the best chance to turn it around, which I thought was shocking that they had a decently high number. The Royals only 14%. They got the lowest number. The Astros won the vote with 38% as the team with the best chance to turn it around. The Giants had 19%. So like Astros and then the Mets were the teams that people actually thought might have a chance amongst these teams. So I ask you, are you surprised by those results? And then out of the 6 teams, Mets, Royals, Astros, Giants, Phillies, Red Sox, I think I know who you're going to pick because you've been on one of these teams since preseason, but tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're going to say I'm going to say the Red Sox. Looking at them just through this series, the first 2 games, they look lifeless, and it's
soulless.
Watching them from afar. It's easy to say they'll turn around looking at the lineup and the pitching, and that Garrett Crochet's struggling. Watching Fenway Park largely be lifeless for the first 2 games in a Yankees Red Sox series where the fans, they had no reason to cheer. They were shut out the first night. They only scored 1 run in garbage time at the end of this game, and we'll see if they can salvage 1 game from this series. But I understand it's cold in the Northeast, but Fenway Park was a lot of empty seats. I think this series is changing my mind a little bit on the Red Sox because it's about watching them in real up close. Because when you see the box score, you see some of the things. The power is extremely down. The pitching has struggled, obviously, being that your ace is not pitching well. I do think that does right the ship. The fact, and I sent this in our group chat just about the Red Sox in general. Their players have more home runs in the WBC than they have for their full team this year for the first month of the season, which speaks about everything going on. I like the Houston pick because every time I look at them, and I'm following them from strictly a fantasy aspect most of the time with Yordan Alvarez and some other players over there. I am streaming Burrows sometimes. The fact that they're 10-16 surprises me because you usually pair that with Alvarez feels like the best player in baseball right now. Will that continue? Yeah. Not sure, but he feels like the best hitter in baseball. And I guess you could say, how bad would they be without him? They have to be able to turn around. I guess it also is on the back and on the arm of Hunter Brown. What's going on with him? So those 2 things. And as I said with the Phillies, I'm not going to reopen that case, but with the Phillies, I think Zach Wheeler gives them a fighting chance at the top of the rotation. That lineup can certainly wake up. A lot of bad vibes everywhere. And the one I'm not in on are the Giants and the Royals. The Giants with Vitello and things. I'm not in on the Giants. I may be completely wrong on this, but seeing them, I don't feel like I'm in on them.
No, I agree with you completely about that. I'm out on the Giants. I do think the voters got it right. And even if you threw the Phillies and the Red Sox in the mix and there were 6 choices, I do still think the Astros are the right answer. Kind of what you said, like the offense has been so damn good that if they could get any pitching, they could be a decent team. And yeah, Hunter Brown, it goes without saying, like they need him to come back and come back healthy. We'll see. But like Yordan Alvarez, but it's not just him though, too. Like Christian Walker, who seemed like such a disappointing signing last year, turns out it looks like it was just one bad year. He looks back to the guy we saw in Arizona. He's been fantastic for them. So they have offense to spare. Need to find some pitching. They had Peter Lambert out there tonight for his second start. He was pretty good in his first start, got a second start against the Guardians tonight, went 6 shutout innings, only 3 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. A name to watch in the fantasy world, too. Maybe a streamer. I could see him being an effective streamer going forward.
And he has him. Travis just like plug and play. Yeah, he started him tonight. I saw.
Oh, Travis, I didn't know. I didn't realize anyone got him.
Dude, in our league, some of the points that some of these teams are putting up right now, like I know you said my team, you're applauding my team, but dude, Travis's team is unreal right now, putting up 30 points today just on a whim. I think he had 1 pitcher going.
Yeah, I mean, there's at the top half, not to get into our league too much right now, but the top half of our league, everyone can really score points like when their team is going well. Like there's more than 2 or 3 teams that can really put up points on any given week. But yeah, so just to finish up here, I think the Astros are the right answer. If you forced me to pick one other one, by the way, I'm not saying I'm in on the Royals. I'm very surprised and disappointed in there. I can't believe how bad they've been. Like they have good pitching for the most part. The offense, like you have Bobby Witt, Michael Garcia, who's an all-star caliber player. Jack Caglione has light tower power. Vinny Pasquantino, WBC hero. Like the fact that they've been this bad offensively to me is shocking. I didn't think they were going to be an offensive juggernaut, but I thought they'd be good enough. So it's a huge disappointment. But again, if you asked me to pick a second team other than the Astros, I think I'd go Phillies, as bad as they've been. Like I don't necessarily believe in any of those teams, but Phillies still have like so much history on their back that they know they can be better than this. So it's hard to believe that they can continue to be this bad. But let's go into our next segment. You guys know it's a favorite of mine. It's a quick one, and it's just really more of shout outs than anything else. But The sub-2 ERA crew, we have to update you on this each week until there's nobody left, which eventually that probably will come. Usually does. So we have somewhere around 10 guys. There was more than this morning when I looked it up, but then a few guys pitched today, including Michael Waka, Clay Holmes. I have to double check. I believe he fell out of it now, even though he pitched pretty well tonight.
I'll get his
but
numbers
some
for you.
guys, what's that? Okay,
I'll get Clone's numbers for you.
Okay. I actually, 2.1. So he fell out of it. I got it. So I'll give you the guys that stuck in it. Jose Soriano still leads the pack by a lot. In fact, he's sub 1, 0.24. And I'll give you this. I think I was telling this to Steve earlier, but MLB tweeted this out after his start today. He only went 5 innings, but again, gave up no runs. 0.24 is the lowest ERA through a pitcher's first 6 starts of a season since 1913, when earned runs became official in both leagues. I mean, that's a wow stat. So shout out to Soriano.
Is that good? Are we sure that's good?
Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's decent. So he leads the pack by a lot. Seth Lugo is next up. Who, again, I'm very happy for the dude. He's been my guy for a while, but even me, I was out on him. He's proven everybody wrong. He's not done yet. Seth Lugo, 1.15 ERA for the team that can score no runs. The Royals, Bryce Elder, I don't think anyone saw him here. 1.50 for the Braves. Jeremy Hefner doing wonders with that pitching staff. Christopher Sanchez, not a surprise, 1.59. Taj Bradley, 1.63. Cool to see. I think his next start might be against his former club, the Rays, which is an interesting matchup. Parker Messick, was it a near perfect game or a near no-hitter?
It's no-hitter. He had
remember.
2 walks.
Okay.
He had 2 walks in there, yeah.
1.76, another one of your dudes, man. Again, living right over there.
I know his
last start.
Lugo and Messick,
I know
yeah.
His last start, Messick wasn't as good, but still, he's looked like he's opened some eyes. Justin Robleski, again, Dodgers, whatever they touch turns to gold. Now getting starts consistently, 1.88. Randy Vasquez has been enormous for the Padres and needs to continue to be that guy if they're really going to be neck and neck with the Dodgers all year. Also 1.88. Cam Schlittler, your guy, 1.95. Eduardo Rodriguez, we'll get you an update because I believe he's pitching as we speak, but he was at 1.96 coming into the night.
Gave up 4 runs today, so he's sitting at 3 now. So
all right, say goodbye.
My boy Colson Montgomery took him deep earlier in the game.
All right, so he's no longer in the sub 2. Sorry, Eduardo.
We'll see you later. Maybe he'll be back. We'll see. You got to have a strong start.
Sure.
He's still in the game right now, so he could potentially. I don't think he can be below 2, but he can get in place that he can make it work next time. It's cool to see this group of pitchers, and I understand like it's always going to be the same faces sometimes, but it's cool to see some new faces right now. And
well, who do you buy the most out of that list, and like who's one guy you expect to be out of this very quickly?
It's tough to say. I mean, Robleski does stand out to me that he's going to be a guy that eventually gets hit. Historically, you see that. There's also the Dodger piece of it, as you mentioned before, and then they turns to gold. Seth Lugo, I can't imagine he'd be under 2 for the whole season. I do like what I'm seeing. He's being crafty and watching him, and he throws the kitchen sink as far as pitches go. If you look at his Baseball Savant page, it's always amazing to see the pitches and what he's able to work on. The guy is a true professional. But the improvement we've seen from year to year and what he's been able to do, like we saw last year, everyone was out on him. Maybe they thought he was done. I think he's going to drop out probably soon. Even watching him, he walks that tightrope a bit. You can kind of see that at any moment the game can go the other way. But as far as those 2 guys come to mind, I'm really buying Jose Soriano because at some point, like I watched his game today. I'm playing Matt Russick, who has him in our league. And I was watching closely. Like this was his last shot this week. So I'm up big, and I was like, Jose Soriano could be a guy that goes out and goes 9, complete game shutout. That's how good he's been all year. So I was watching very closely. He looked pretty beatable today. I understand he didn't give up any runs through 5, but he looked, again, a guy like that was walking the tightrope. But there's something to be said. Like you were talking about over 100 years of history hasn't been done. It's cool to see an ace emerge. It reminds me when Cliff Lee took that step in the beginning of one season. Like, oh, where did this come from? Yeah. Maybe Jose Soriano is that ace. He just figured it out.
And cool to see someone do it for the Angels, who just like those fans are desperate to have something like that. So good for them. Lugo, what is very interesting to me, I mean, he went his last start against Baltimore, 7 innings, no runs, 1 hit. 1 hit. He did walk 4. I don't think he's given up a home run this year. And that is what really harmed him more than anything last year. And even when he had some good seasons, like he gave up a lot of home run balls. So the fact that he's doing something different where he's limiting that damage, the deep ball, good for him. And again, he's pitching in that park that where they moved the fences in. Again, we're waiting for it to warm up, so maybe it'll take a bigger effect as we get closer to June and July. But really cool to see him having that success. I agree with you. The Robleski thing, I'd be surprised, and Bryce Elder, as good as he's been, I'd be surprised with him as well.
Oh yeah, they were talking about him on Rates and Barrels about how Eno is so out on Bryce Elder, waiting for the bottom to fall out. We'll see. Stranger things have happened. We watch the metrics not always line up.
No, not always.
Performance on the field. So maybe there is something about Bryce Elder that's confusing hitters. I am the proud owner of him in my Roto league, so I'm hoping he continues to rise above all the hate that's being thrown his way.
Rise above the hate.
Yeah, the John Cena shirt from whatever year that was.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking of against Kane.
All right, well, let's get into red hot, ice cold and talk about some of the hitters and pitchers around baseball. All right, hit that organ here. We got red hot, ice cold. And Devin, I'll let you start it up here. I have some guys that are names we've been talking about a lot. I've just taken the last 7 days since we last took the air and had a conversation. But I'll let you start with a hitter and a pitcher if you have one.
Sure. So I'll go give you both of my red hots, which one is a hitter, one's a pitcher. And this is crazy for me. If you know me, you know I like to rag on the Cardinals. But my red hots are both St. Louis Cardinals. So how about that? Mason Wynn, who mainly known for his glove, his arm. Got to like what you're seeing with him offensively. If he can just be like league average offensively, he's a hell of a player because what a great defender. If he can be above average offensively, you're talking about an all-star, honestly. Over the last week, 10 for 26, which comes out to a 385 average, 2 doubles, a triple, home run, 8 RBI, 1 stolen base. Hell of a week. Keep it rolling. I like Mason Wynn. I'm not a Cardinal fan. I kind of despise them if I'm being honest. But I do like Mason Wynn. He's a likable dude. He's not a lot to hate on for Mason Wynn. So cool to see him thriving offensively over there, at least over the last week. And then his teammate, Riley O'Brien, out of nowhere, becoming one of the best closers in the league. He's notched 7 saves in 8 opportunities this year. 0 ERA, 0.45 whip, 15 strikeouts, 0 walks. Over the course of 13 1/3 innings, take notes, Devin Williams, 0 walks. This is why I call bullpens fickle. There's nothing more fickle in sports than bullpen and relief pitchers. The Mets go pay Devin Williams tens of millions of dollars to suck ass, while this guy comes out of nowhere to be dominant at the back end of the St. Louis bullpen. So shout out to Riley O'Brien, having a great season so far.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to maybe someone should invest some money on maybe doing a documentary of some of these guys that turn into elite closers for 1 or 2 years. Jason Mott comes to mind for the St. Louis Cardinals. Brian Wilson for that amount of time. Go down the list of your favorite team and a guy who was just like a blip on the radar and then he disappeared into obscurity, but got paid by some other team that bought into it on the long term. I'm going to go with Sal Stewart. He had a game today, had a single, struck out. Not a big game from today, but just overall what we're seeing from Sal Stewart. We mentioned the Reds lineup. And if it wasn't for Sal Stewart and Ellie De La Cruz, we're not sure where they'd be. 3 home runs, 12 RBIs in the last week, about week, 7 days, as far as 6 runs scored. Now 9 hits and 34 at bats or so like that. So extra base impact, consistent run production, and the power is showing with a lot of run driving results for him. I really like what I'm seeing from him as far as being in the middle of the order bat. It's awesome to see him take the next step. He's a guy that we've all expected. We've been following his trajectory. Fantasy dynasty players have loved the profile. It's cool to see it come to fruition so quickly in the beginning of this year.
Yeah, and you got to believe it too. It's hard not to when you watch him. Like he looks like the real deal for sure. Should we go over to ice cold or you got another one?
I have my pitcher as well, Dylan Cease. We're rolling right now. He threw his recent stretch. I know there's been a lot of hate on Dylan Cease. 11 innings pitched, 18 Ks, 1 earned run, his ERA in that stretch, sitting at 1.64. Opponents are not generating consistent damage against him, and I'm liking the high strikeout volume right now. And he's not being damaged, and he's not doing a lot of things that made him very hittable. last year and years before that. He's working deep enough into outings to control games. That was something that a lot of fans of other teams that he's been on, whether it be the White Sox or the Padres, would always point out he's not a gamer going out there. Well, this year he's showing a little bit more heart. Maybe he likes the mentality of what's coming out of his new squad, but Dylan Cease right now, keep an eye on him because we know how good he can be. That's why he got paid in the first place and all these other spots. And people were down on him, but Dylan Cease has ace potential, and it's nice to see it over the last couple of days.
Yeah, electric strikeout stuff. We know he's had that in his arsenal. People just want to see him take that next step to like, all right, like you can't just be a 5 and fly guy, no matter how many strikeouts you throw. Like we need you to eat some more innings. So good looks for Toronto. If that combination of Kevin Gausman and Dylan Cease, and then if we can get Trey Savage back in the mix, they're like, I know the Blue Jays have had their struggles. They can't stay healthy, but if you can get the band back together a little bit here, like this is still a good enough team to make an impact this year, but they've been snake bit so far. If we go over to ice cold, the first guy for me is someone I mentioned earlier, so I'll go quick with him. Jesus Luzardo got paid by the Phils. He is a key component for this team, no doubt about it. 6.91 ERA on the season, only Crochet's worse. I said that earlier. Command has been an issue. Bases have been crowded. The swing and miss is there, like it usually is for Luzardo, but he's been super inconsistent. And as a fantasy owner, very frustrating to own. I am also depending on you, Jesus Luzardo. And then my other guy, this happens a lot. I prepare these notes. I pick my red hot ice cold, and then sure enough, one of the guys has a good night. But I'm going to say it anyway and give him a shout out for what he did tonight. Michael Busch, who, in my opinion, is an underrated, not as a player necessarily, well, maybe probably as a player, but that's not where I'm going. Understated, important part of the Cubs, as in like people don't talk about how important he is to that team's success. 34 bombs last year. Big in the playoff. I feel like that series against the Brewers, he had some big moments. Surprising ice cold start. 0 home runs on the year after hitting 34 last year until tonight, because after I wrote this up, he hit his first bomb in that game against the Phillies. Before tonight, he was hitting 173. His expecting batting average was 199, a little better, but still under 200. A 41 WRC plus. The barrel percentage, this is what noteworthy stuff here. The barrel percentage was down to 3.2%. Last year, it was 17.1. That's a hell of a drop. So he's struggling to find it. Hard hit percentage last year was 28.6%. This year, it was 47% last year, another big drop off. Before tonight, he had not recorded an extra base hit since March 26, like the first couple games. Maybe tonight gets him rolling after that first bomb. It's got to feel good to get that one out of the way.
So the game is still going on right now in Colorado, as you mentioned, but Manny Machado has been absolutely ice cold. And he does have 2 home runs on this year, and he has actually hit home runs unlike his lineup counterpart in Tatis. But over the last seven days, 136 average, 208 OBP, 136 slugging percentage, 1 hit. He had a hit today, so add to that. But before today, 1 hit and 22 at-bats, no home runs, 2 RBIs. And if you read anything about Manny Machado on social media, and even like the infamous Yahoo page, if you ever read the chat in there, he is a slow starter. We know that. He's a guy that's going to start slow, and we're expecting the back of the baseball card to match at some point. But it has to be frustrating as a Padres fan, as a fantasy owner, however you're measuring Manny Machado right now, because he's not driving the ball. He's not producing at his usual level right now. And then this snapshot of this week is ugly. It's not Manny Machado level. So to hit 136 at any stretch of the year, I understand it's baseball, but to have no home runs and only 1 hit and 22 at bats, like again, has a hit tonight, but he's got to get going at some point. He's ice cold.
Yeah, Machado, I feel like has kind of felt like that player the last couple of years, where it's like he's going to have his big moments. The numbers are kind of sort of going to be there at the end, but he's going to have stretches where you're like, is he kind of in his downfall? And I do feel like he's that kind of player. You're kind of waiting. You feel like that point of his career is starting where he's not going to look so much like the player that we're used to.
Yeah, so that's what I have here. For my ice cold, for my pitcher, I had Jack Leiter. He pitched today, looked better than he had been. So it's not as if he's ice cold. Give up three runs over the course of 5. But before that, 9 1/3 innings, 8 earned runs. His ERA was sitting at 7.71. His whip was 2.04, 12 hits, 7 walks, traffic all over the bases, putting his team in jeopardy. He figured it out a little bit today. didn't get the win. Obviously, was on the losing side of the game, but he figured out some of the stuff that he was working with. But too many base runners, not enough control for him to stabilize the outings. That's been the Jack Leiter playbook right now. And for him to get better, we know what he was projected. He hasn't taken the next step, and he was in a rough stretch prior today and kind of continued. Didn't really right the ship all the way, but it's not like he blew up. I thought for sure he was going to blow up today based on the numbers we saw, but he figured it out and got out of there not looking as ugly as it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, the Vanderbilt boys are going to have a big effect on how far the Rangers go, and as far as Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. Obviously, you got DeGrom and Nate Eovaldi at the top, which is pretty solid, and Mackenzie Gore there in the middle. It has the potential to be one of the best staffs in the league, but at the same time, you feel like there are still question marks. You're still waiting for these guys to prove it, whether it be DeGrom full season. Eovaldi struggled this year mostly, to be honest. He had one or two good starts in there, but he's had some very frustrating starts. Gore, same kind of thing, has looked great at times and then not so great at others. So Rangers, high hopes for them, and played pretty well so far this year, but still some question marks there.
So let's come around third here. Let's talk about what we're looking forward to for the rest of the week. All right, so the way this has worked, we've had a week in between episodes. Seems like we figured out our comfort zone is recording on Wednesday. Thursday's a lighter amount of games for the slate, so you guys can listen to us and kind of get ready for the weekend. As far as for me, there is more of the bias of this where I'm watching the Yankees finish out the series, and they have another one of their rivals stepping in when they are taking on the Houston Astros. Of course, watching what the Astros have done over the course of time, we mentioned that they're struggling, but it is cool to see the Yankees on this run. They're going over, and Will Warren's taking the hill on Friday. The Yankees have figured it out. I know you mentioned in Twitter where someone mentioned, like, how are you not mentioning the Yankees in this? There was a time in between where the Yankees couldn't buy anything. The sweep in Tampa and just felt like they were on the downhill slide. But the metric of a good team outside of the advanced stats is being able to right the ship and figure it out. And there seems to be a camaraderie that's building behind the scenes with this Yankee club. And they seem to really like each other, whether it be Ahmed Rosario, Cody Bellinger.
What's that like?
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's fun to see even like Randall Grichuk, who struggled and finding his place in the team. And I have my issues with the way Aaron Boone manages his team, giving it bats to Paul Goldschmidt, getting the start today. He did put Ben Rice later in the game, but the bench is going to be interesting to watch be managed over the course of time, because it feels like Boone is hell bent on putting these guys in where it's almost like a month out. He circled that I'm going to put Randall Grichuk's playing or Paul Goldschmidt's playing. I don't care what the matchup is. I don't care how hot or cold somebody is. And maybe that's coming from above him. Maybe that is baseball Susan as we sit today, but it's frustrating to watch that. But the vibes with the Yankees right now, it's fun. And especially to beat up on the Red Sox. I would love to see continue beating up on a downtrodden Houston team. Would make for the perfect 6-day stretch for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going to cheat here. I got a few that I want to point out. It's a fun weekend. It's a fun slate here. Phillies Braves. I mean, the Braves honestly have a chance to step on their throats. Zach Wheeler coming back Friday. That's a series the Phillies have to have. They have to win that series. I'm not saying that it's a sweep, but to get some confidence, get the ball rolling a little bit in the right direction. They have to win that series. It's in Atlanta too. It's home field advantage for the Braves. They're going to try to step on your throats early here. So that's one I'm watching for sure. Pirates Brewers. That's a lot of fun, especially with how that division's going. Pirates 14-10, Brewers 13-10. Again, a kind of a benchmark moment, a measuring stick moment for the Pirates early on in the season. And then my last one is Cubs Dodgers, partly because of what we just talked about earlier in the show. The Craig Counsell comments, Dave Roberts kind of taking exception. The Cubs are thought of as one of the main threats to the Dodgers as far as when they get in a postseason situation of maybe a team that could take them down or has the offensive firepower to do so. Obviously, pitching, they've taken a hit with the Horton stuff. But I think that's a fun one to watch, especially in lieu of the Craig Counsell comments.
Oh, absolutely. There seems to be this pipeline of the contenders that are emerging. And although, again, drink if you heard us say it before, it is early. But yeah, there is a lot of buzz that's building behind the scenes or not with the stuff that's in the headlines. And some of these teams are competitive. I like using these matchups as a litmus test. Baseball has moments in the season where it's a measuring stick, playing teams like the Dodgers, teams that have been at the top. And it's cool to see. And the one thing I also will say, that even as bad as the bottom of the league has been, and that's been a big conversation throughout the last couple seasons, at the bottom of the league, it's just light years below where the threshold of competitiveness is. There seems to be a jump, and there is definitely a have and have not as far as the league and postseason teams. But even the worst of the league, as I alluded to before, with the Colorado Rockies and the Chicago White Sox and the Miami Marlins, teams that you're not betting are going to win the World Series or make the postseason. But at the same time, there is something fun to watch. And maybe it's just my bias because I talked a lot about the Marlins, but you can find bright spots where you couldn't find bright spots before. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there's a lot of bright spots from young players that are playing. And even with Colorado, there seems to be, like we mentioned, vibes of the Padres, and I mentioned the Yankees get it. There's some pride playing in Denver right now. The fan base, there seems to be a little bit of a love affair in the early part of the season. And listen, they're not going to win a lot of games, but there's a lot brewing there, and you're setting the foundation of the house you're building on top of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I mean, Chase DeLander is a name to watch. I thought about putting him in our red hot. He's a guy like out of college, people were super excited about, has great stuff, and then kind of looked like he was going to fall victim to Coors Field. But this year, he looks like a more confident pitcher, like he might be figuring it out. So shout out to him. And same thing, White Sox, like they have some guys that you want to watch, especially Murakami. And, Noah Schultz is up now as well. Got more pitchers on the way. And who would have thought 3 huge budget teams, the Mets, Phillies, Red Sox, are hanging down in the basement? Like, what the hell? Like, that's pretty crazy.
Did you see, before we get out of here, the Red Sox Twitter was a buzz where someone took a picture of the Red Sox team shop today. And since the Yankees are in town, a lot of traveling fans, they took a picture of the Yankees merchandise, and they were selling plaques with all the Yankees championships on it to get visiting teams to buy it. And Red Sox fans are livid. Go out and check this out.
Yeah, I'd be pissed too. I'd be annoyed.
Playing.
I'd be annoyed about that. Yeah, come on, you're the Red Sox. That's not just like a division foe. That's a historical rivalry. How can you come on now?
The Yankees were selling Dodger shit at the stadium too. I remember they were selling the Yankees Dodgers hat, the Ohtani Judge fraudulent hat that they were selling. Teams do this, but as the Red Sox, especially with read the room, guys, just to make an extra couple bucks, read the room.
Give me on your way out here before we sign off, favorite WrestleMania match quickly.
Man, I would say Punk and Roman was the best match.
I was hoping you'd say. I just wanted to hear you say something nice about CM Punk.
Punk showed up, dude. If you guys listened to my episode on the Tavern, Turnbuckle Tavern, I recorded a WrestleMania reaction. I said the Punk Roman match was one of the best Mania matches we've seen in the last 15 years. It was great.
I've heard. I told you I didn't watch. I kind of kept track on Twitter and clips and stuff like that. But yeah, I couldn't believe how many positive things I was hearing about that match, and not because I didn't think they could, but
Punk showed up. He came in shape. You could tell he was working hard to be there. He pulled off the Shane O'Mac spot from the top rope through the table with the elbow spot.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him do that.
There's no way he's going to do it. I'm like, I don't think he ever did that.
No, I think he did it against Taker in that Mania match. I remember that. I'll have to go back and watch, but I feel like he did it there. But I definitely haven't seen him do it since then. I mean, he did some cool stuff in AEW. He definitely looked better there than he's looked since coming back here. But I was happy. He's one of my favorites from back when he kind of got me back into wrestling back in 2011. But I was happy to hear that he put a good performance out there.
Dude, night 2 was levels above night 1. So if you're going to watch, night 2 had a flow to it. It was, as far as match length, wasn't great, but they gave a lot of action, whether it be Oba and Brock or the ladder match was awesome for the IC title.
I watched those two because it was free on ESPN, and I thought those were both what they should be. The ladder match is so fun. My 2 kids were going nuts, where I thought they were going to tear the house down. They both went and put masks on. Like, one of them put a Rey Mysterio mask on, the other put some other random mask on, and they're like jumping off the couch. And then it was like dinner time, so we're trying to get them to eat dinner. Jordan keeps his Rey Mysterio mask on. He's eating dinner with Mysterio. I have a great picture of that, but I thought that
would be proud. The beef I had with that match, and it sounds petty, but why were all the luchas wearing red? Like Rey Mysterio.
I didn't love that. Yeah, I also thought
red.
I thought that was strange. Like, they didn't communicate about that at all. It seemed weird.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was they did it as a tribute to something, but Penta's entrance was cool, Mortal Kombat and all that. But either way, I also night 1, Seth and Gunther was a good match. But dude, Punk and Roman's going to go down as one of it's an all-time match, man. I really believe
I'll have to watch the whole thing then, because that's worth watching. Like people are, I heard other people saying like it's not just this year, like it's going to go down as the top WrestleMania match, which is pretty crazy to think at the point of the their careers now.
Yeah, it was excellent, and it felt like a big fight feel, and it was the direct opposite of Cody and Randy, where they influenced Gaga all over that, and the crowd didn't react to the match. It was really the perfect WWE match. If you're looking for the perfect match that WWE can put on, Punk and Roman, it was great. But we appreciate all your support here. Again, if you guys are new following us, thank you so much. Stay tuned for the ride here. We're going to continue to put out great content. Devin, continue to run the Twitter machine, posting things on Instagram. Interact with us. Let us know what you want from the show. If you want some more fantasy conversation, just message us. We're very accessible. Send us a message on Twitter or send us a message on Instagram. And if you're so kind, if you like what we're doing, please leave a 5-star review. It goes a very long way, helps the algorithm, helps other baseball fans find our show. Follow us at Tablesetters Pod on IG and on X. On our way out the door, Devin, anything you want to say to all the baseball fans out there and to your New York Mets that are victorious for the first time in over
Let's go Mets, 1-game winning streak. And that old Curb Your Enthusiasm Larry David meme, which fits right here. F you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And that's towards the Mets, not our listeners.
Well, Devin said it best. As always, we'll talk to you after a while. And as always, happy baseball.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the